All right, how's it going, everybody? We have the next installment of Chupacabra Games Monday Modern here for round number one. Look like it's going to be Caleb versus Brinker. Brinker's on 80 card Yorion pile of sorts, probably some sort of death and taxes we've got going on. And then looks like Caleb is on blue-red Murktide as we see him get his Ragavan exiled by Path to Exile on turn number one, ramping him up one land here. So we've kind of seen Path get pushed out of the format for that reason, is that ramping your opponent turns out is pretty beneficial to them. But Brinker's still spotting a few copies over here. We'll see how that helps him in this matchup. I know it's a pretty good way to deal with Murktides, as well as basically any threat that the blue-red deck is going to deploy. Even if it is just a one-drop like Ragavan that can stop them from accruing too much value and running away with the game. But ramping them is a low cost to pay, I suppose. But we do see Brinker lead on, or not lead, but play Vile on turn two. Specifically not leading on it, maybe to hit something like a Ragavan that'll be dashed. Caleb untapping with 3 lands in play already. About to play his 4th. So pretty big advantage already as we see another dash Ragavan. And come across for just 3, I believe. It looks like there's only 2 cards in Caleb's graveyard. And we will see Flicker Wisp be pitched to make this March able to kill Ragavan. And Brinker will take 1, down to 19. All right, Brinker will go to his upkeep, put 1 counter on the Vial, draw a card for turn, and see if we have a third lineup. It looks like Brinker mulliganed quite a bit. Or I guess just pitching all of these cards made the contents of his hand a lot lesser. But looks like we're just buying Yorion here. And we're going to be passing it back to Caleb, who's going to untap with 5 lands. Brinker only has Vial on 1, so Caleb's got to be pretty happy about this interaction so far. All right, second channeler here for Caleb. It looks like he's 1 card type closer to getting Delirium as well. End of turn, Brinker will flash in off of a Vial, a Giver of Runes. And we will see still on Caleb's end step in a Holy Heat, taking out the Giver before it can do any work. Giver's a pretty common card we start to see now out of the Hammer Time decks, just as a backup answer against removal out of like 4-color decks or even something like Murktide 2. But typically they're at its best when the players are on the play and lead on Giver of Runes, as you really just need to untap 1 time so you can still be able to use the Giver. It looks like before Brinker puts a counter on the Vial, he's going to activate it, putting in another Giver. So we will have at least 1 of these guys in play. As Caleb has 3 Dragon Rage Channeler, which are just going to fly over the Giver, but Caleb's just going to take him out too. And we'll come across for just 2. Still no Delirium, looks like. Brinker missing a 4th land drop. Vial up to 3 and Vial up to 1. And that'll do it. 3 DRCs will come across, and Caleb will take game number 1 here. Yep, Brinker is on 80 card Death and Taxes. Just got a little unfortunate not drawing Vial as early as he'd like to, I think. And then not drawing lands just kind of puts him in a hole he can't really dig himself out of. But we'll see what he can do on the play. I'm sure he's got plenty of sideboard cards here for the matchup. As well as his main deck's not awful either. I think he's got a fair amount of ways to deal with Murktide's threats. It's just if he can get something going early, that'll stick. Yep, yeah, get a full 20 cards extra. But you do lose a sideboard card, so not exactly quite an extra deck, but we do see a lot more cards being played. It's like a couple swords too for Brinker, so he's got a few options to get off of Stoneforge. The real issue with Stoneforge though is that it's probably not going to live because Caleb knows what he's up against now and can prepare by keeping a hand with at least one removal spell, probably 2 on the draw because Brinker's going to be trying to go for a Giver of Runes on 1 or at least a Vial. He's looking like Leonin Arbiter is going to be coming in, as well as some extra Skyclaves, or maybe those are what's coming out. They were taking out Thalia and Skyclave. And we'll find out. The blue-red decks do have some pretty good draw power, though. All of their creatures accumulate some kind of value, whether it's Letter Shredder, being able to loot, or DRC just surveilling right into the graveyard. Also play stuff like Expressive Iteration that will help just generate a massive amount of value for these Murktide decks. Our players are just shuffling up for game number 2 here. It'll be Brinker on the play as Caleb got game number 1. All right, we see Yorion still be declared as the companion. No surprise there. I know Brinker is a very fond enjoyer of the Sky Noodle himself. It looks like Caleb's looking at a lot of blue cards. I see 1 Scalding Tarn. Might be a mulligan. I feel like Counterspell's not that great against Death and Taxes. Knowing that it's Death and Taxes and being on the draw, you're just not going to be able to counter Aether Vials easily or at all. And since Aether Vial is going to resolve and you don't have a ton of ways to get rid of it, most, if not all of Brinker's creatures that he plays are going to be at instant speed as well as uncounterable. So I like taking Counterspell out here, or maybe Caleb just trimmed on it and he just got unlucky and drew a copy of it. But there are very few creature spells in Brinker's deck. So, and the ones that are like the equipments can just be cheated into play too if a Stoneforge Mystic sticks around for a turn. Caleb going down to 6 here. Can take a look at a new 7. All right, Brinker will lead on a Plains and Aether Vial. So a good start so far. Caleb will shock in down to 18. Play a Ragavan. Aether Vial going to be doing some work here. See if Brinker has Stoneforge Mystic. He's going to put a Chalice on 1. Okay. Pretty powerful against the deck with a lot of 1-drops in it, although I would have to imagine Caleb brought in some form of artifact removal just by seeing the Aether Vial and Stoneforge Mystic package. Although I guess he didn't specifically see the Stoneforge Mystic package. But Solitude will take care of this Ragavan before it connects. And looks like Caleb kept a 1-lander. Lots of red cards, lots of 1-drops. No lands. All right, Brinker's just playing a bunch of hate pieces here. And this Vial will be able to just cheat in his 1-drops. Although we do see Vial up on 2, so maybe no more 1-drops for Brinker, but yeah, that's going to be enough for Caleb. He sees a bunch of lock pieces and not any more lands, so we're going to be going to game 3 here. Brinker showed us a Stoneforge Mystic 2, so I do not think that Caleb was getting out of that one, even if he did not concede. That is looking pretty grim for him. All right, so Caleb just has to draw some lands, it looks like, and maybe make some adjustments to his sideboard to deal with Chalice. Yeah, it turns out white sideboard cards, that's where they shine. Most of the good white cards you will find out of the sideboard. Although, I guess we do live in a Solitude Ephemerate world, so those cards pretty good in Modern. Right. I think I see a couple islands for Caleb, but probably no red sources as we see him send that 7 back and go look at a new 7. Looks like Brinker is more than satisfied with his keep and rubbing the top of his deck, maybe hoping to draw a land here. Caleb with a little bit of unfortunate luck so far, but see how the 6 shapes out for him. Draw some lands and spells, hopefully some 2-drops. We know about Chalice. This looks like a 1 Steam Vents Blood Moon hand. Couple considers. All right, I think we're keeping it. Maybe putting the Blood Moon back. That would seem wise. Doesn't seem too great in the matchup either, as Blood Moon or Aether Vial does exist. All right. Caleb will lead on Ragavan, and Brinker will lead on Aether Vial. Cross for 2. And does Brinker have Solitude? No. Okay. So we're going to exile the Stoneforge off the top, get a treasure for Caleb. Yeah, the Death Texas deck playing a lot of basics too, so I'm kind of surprised we're seeing the Blood Moon still. in game 3 here, but I guess there might not have been enough cards to take out from the main deck. So second land is Horizon Canopy here for Brinker. Might matter as it's going to deal him a little bit of damage over the course of the game that might add up to a lot if he doesn't have many other lands. We were going to try to play Rest in Peace here. And Caleb has a Spell Pierced as a rebuttal. Spell Pierce also not being great in the matchup, but I guess we did see Chalice and Rest in Peace last game, so being on the play makes a lot of sense to keep that in. Ragavan will attack, but Brinker will activate Vial, putting Giver into play. Caleb has the response with an Unholy Heat and flips over Field of Ruin. Now with 2 treasures, I think he did only keep a 1 or 2 lander, so the treasure's really mattering here for Caleb. That makes sense why he's using the Unholy Heat whenever he can. Just make sure he can take out as many of Brinker's creatures as possible. I think we see Chalice of the Void in hand, about to be cast. Chalice on 1. Caleb has a Consider. Well, if there's any time to cast that, now is time. I think Counterspell is picked up. Oh, maybe not. And Chalice will resolve. See if Brinker can flash out another blocker. Strike Molds, thanks for the 1 biddy. All right, Caleb found a 3rd land, 3 treasures too, so maybe just Murktide here. We are 1 off. We're 1 off of Murktide. So Maria's Call will come in tapped for Brinker. Doesn't want to take the 3, seems reasonable. He's already at 13. Like Flicker Wisp will come in off of the Vial. Caleb is going to hardcast a Fury in his main phase 2 just to take out the Flicker Wisp, although it's a little difficult for Brinker to remove the Fury. It doesn't have anything like Bolt. He has March, but that's a little expensive. And Solitude is probably his best answer, but if he's Solituding Furies, he's not Solituding a Murktide, so it might be alright for Caleb. And here's a Stoneforge Mystic. That'll be Brinker's way to close this game quickly. With something like a Cauldra or even Sword of Fire and Ice would be pretty good in this spot, as Caleb's entire deck is blue and red. We will find Batterskull, so that leads me to believe that Brinker might already have Cauldra in hand, as that is usually the first pickup. Caleb will go straight to combat, attacking for 8 total. We do have a Violent 4, it looks like, so maybe Restoration Angel's in play? Is the plan from Brinker? I do think he only has 1 card left in hand, so we're about to find out. We're going to crack this Horizon Canopy. Vial, I think we'll go up to 5. So we might be talking about the Vial trigger? Okay, so before Brinker's draw step, during his upkeep, I presume, we're going to cast a Dress Down from Caleb. And this will force Brinker to use Stoneforge Mystic now. Is really all this is going to do. Maybe it'll stop a Solitude too, and that'll make Caleb's life a little bit easier. We'll see what Brinker puts down. It is going to be Batterskull. Maybe Brinker, concerned about his life total, wants to get a lifelinker in play. And did see a Solitude be picked up. Brinker might be running away with this one. He's at 5, but Chalice on 1 in play is going to be pretty problematic for Caleb. If Caleb's running any copies of Brazen Borrower, now would be its time to shine, as you could just petty theft the Germ. But Ledger Shredder will be the 2-drop blue card that we see. Cracking a treasure for an Unholy Heat. That's going to target the Stoneforge, but put a trigger on the stack from Chalice of the Void, but more importantly, trigger the Ledger Shredder in Conniving, as it's the second spell cast. And Connive doesn't care about resolving so long as the spell is just cast, and it's going to go straight to the graveyard. Caleb will pick up a card. Discard a Ragavan. That'll put a counter on the Shredder, making it a 2/4. Almost able to block the Batterskull here. Caleb's going to come in for 8 yet again. And we're going to block the Fury. That'll trade with the Batterskull. Still gaining Brinker 4 life. But the Ragavan hit will exile a Solitude and put Brinker back down to 7. Caleb with 2 mana up, 1 card in hand, passes it back. We'll see if the Ledger Shredder can get in there in the skies. I do think, yeah, we do see Solitude in hand for Brinker. Another Maria's Call will come in tapped. Pick up Yorion. I think that's the white card we needed for the Solitude. Although Brinker at 7, I think he's at a safe life total. He doesn't really need to pitch here. But just in case, while Caleb has less resources, we're going to go ahead and do this now. We're going to be swordsing the Ledger Shredder off of the Solitude trigger. Gain Caleb a couple life back up to 20. Activating Vial. That'll put Yorion in play. That'll flicker all of Brinker's permanents except for Chalice and Vial, getting him another Solitude trigger, a Living Weapon trigger, and we will find another equipment. And this might be just what Brinker needed. Just a little break here. Survived enough damage from the Fury, and just waits for this Chalice to take him home. I think Archmage's Charm is the card in hand for Caleb. All right, Caleb will draw. It's a Misty Rainforest. And a Ledger Shredder. Ledger Shredder, I don't think can beat, Cauldron, Batterskull, and Yorion. So we will see Caleb pick him up. And Brinker will take this match in 3. Death and Taxes taken down the blue-red Murktide player. Thanks to Chalice of the Void and Stoneforge Mystic. Also, Aether Vial playing a pretty big part in that match, making Brinker's spells able to cast at an awkward time, usually at Caleb's end step, and also making them uncounterable. So you really just have to deploy threats in the matchup from the Murktide side of things, and just hope they don't have too many Solitudes. But Brinker was able to mitigate Caleb's good draw steps, as Chalice on 1 just makes it pretty impossible to play through that unless you're playing something like Brazen Borrower or Braid or Engineered Explosives in the sideboard. And I don't believe Caleb is. So he did get got by the Chalice and didn't deal quite enough damage in the time that he was allowed. So yeah, looks like Brinker took out some Leonin Arbiters, Skyclaves, just to not give Caleb as much value. I took out an Ephemerator too as well, looks like, because Chalice on 1, which makes a lot of sense. But all right, as our players are finished up here, we're gonna see if we can find you guys a second match for this first round. All right, so it looks like all of our matches are already a little past the point of being shifted on the coverage. So I think there's just one match left, so this should be finishing up before the 20 minutes left in round. We're just going to take a little break here just until that match finishes, and we'll be back with round number 2. All right, we're back here for round number 2 of Chupacabra Games Monday Modern. We've got returning player from last round, Brinker, who was victorious over Caleb on Blue Red Murktide, and we have Joseph playing here for the first time, I believe. So get him some stream action, see what he's on. It looks like a Gigantha companion that he just picked up from us earlier today against Brinker's Yorion companion. So it's like he has not informed our table judge yet what he's on, so we're about to find out. I think in the blind, if I see a Gigantha in Modern, I'm either thinking one of two things of Mono Green Tron or Grixis Death Shadow. Still have a couple minutes left to wager some channel points, win some more. We've got some cool rewards to redeem those for, and looking at adding some more, so get your votes in now. Looks like popular opinion is to vote on Brinker so far. Like 2 cards will go to the bottom here for Joe. And it looks like we are on Tron. I see his Chromatic Sphere. And it looks like Tower was the first turn play. All right, Brinker will play a Plains and pass it back. Joseph will crack. Make a green, play Ancient Stirrings. He will find, I believe that is a power plant. It could be a mine. It's definitely not a tower. So different Tron piece here for Joseph. Looks like that might have been his only land. So we're going to deploy a map and see if we can get this third land by turn 3. But if not, this does shore it up for turn number 4. Break with double planes. We'll play Leonin Arbiter. Pretty good timing there. It was lucky for Brinker that Joseph did not lead on map, as he would have cracked it on turn 2 on the play. So Brinker getting in here with the Cat Cleric, making it a little more expensive to crack that map. Looks like we have double tower, so no natural Tron here. And he's going to have to pay 4 mana to successfully activate and search his library with the map. So that it'll be turn 5 Tron with only 2 colorless mana after that. Definitely buy Brinker some time to set up. We might see a Stoneforge Mystic here. I think that's the ideal play for Brinker, as it's going to lead into the fastest kill the Death and Taxes can offer, which is a Culture Complete. And now we see Thalia, so that's not going to be as amazing here. As if Joseph does get to crack this map next turn, he's already going to have enough mana to untap with, but we do see Ghost Quarter for Brinker here. So that's going to deal some damage in the form of land destruction against Tron specifically, and with Leonin Arbiter also in play, it's going to be just a strip mine if he doesn't have enough mana. But we do see Warping Whale come down to make a 1/1, looks like. And because Leonin Arbiter is in play, Joseph cannot search off of any trigger, whether it's his own or his opponent's. And that will just be a wasteland. And looks like Power Plant was the pickup. Or no, mine, excuse me. So mine, tapping all 3 mana plus sacking the 1/1 will allow Joe to crack the Expedition map, as well as pay for the 2 to be able to search. So we'll have Tron online next turn. And Joseph does have double tower, so if we have something like Ulamog, that could happen to come down and just take out Brinker's lands or both of his creatures. But if we have something like Ugin, we can still cast it too. We'll have 10 mana, as long as Brinker doesn't have another Ghost Quarter. And Brinker looking like he doesn't have a land drop yet. We're going to play a Giver of Ruins. It's going to be a Mother of Runes type effect, but it can give pro colorless. But it cannot target itself, and it is a 1/2, and we do see it being pulled up on the screen here. Impression from any color, just not itself, and as well as colorless. So Silent Clearing will also be played this turn. Brinker's gonna go to combat, attack for 4, setting Joseph down to 14. We'll see what kind of threat, if any, that Joseph has to play. This would be the turn to play it. Looks like Oblivion Stone was the draw. So we can play that and crack that this turn. And that's gonna be pretty solid here for Joseph. I think we see Walking Ballista as well. We're looking at Joseph's sideboard here, it looks like. So we see Unlicensed Hearst, Snaring Bridge, a few other targets. It leads me to believe Card in the Great Creator is in Joseph's hand here. So we're going to make 6 mana. And float 1 colorless, play the Karn. Okay, so Joseph not floating the colorless, just going to make 5 mana, pay for the Karn through the Thalia attacks. All right, be 1 second. We do have a judge call. All right, so we are back from the judge call. Take a quick look and see what happened. I think Walking Ballista got picked up off the Karn. We do see Karn at 3 loyalty. And Breaker still has his permanents in place, so guessing Oblivion Stone has not been cast yet. We can cast it and crack it in the same turn, because even through the Thalia, we're just going to pick up Ensnaring Bridge, though. Joseph probably not a lot of gas in hand, I'm guessing, as he's picking up the Ensnaring Bridge now. And then we're just going to play Oblivion Stone and crack it. Looks like he tapped all 10 mana. And then play Ensnaring Bridge afterwards. Oh no, we're just going to play out our hand. Okay. Play out our hand, have 1 card. So none of Brinker's creatures can attack except for the Giver of Runes, which can kill the Karn, which is not nothing. And he can't really equip Shadow Spear, you don't have to worry about that. So Brinker does play Skyclave Apparition. That's something he could have here to deal with his bridge. Although with the Oblivion Stone too, I mean that's just a hard reset. Oh, okay, we see Flicker Wisp here. That's going to target the Ensnaring Bridge and allow Brinker to come in for one more combat. But he doesn't have too much power in play either, so he's not really going to do much here. He's going to be able to take off the Karn, deal 4. I really like Joseph's patience on cracking the Oblivion Stone and making Brinker commit more to the board. As he didn't have too much in play, but now Brinker's fully committed, a lot of permanents in play, and it looks like no cards in hand. So I think cracking the Oblivion Stone here, if necessary, is just going to end the game anyways. But having the bridge too just also adds a layer of insulation. Running 3 mana off the tower, another 3 off of the second tower, so up to 6. All right, so we're just gonna cycle the sphere in play. Looks like Wormcoil in hand too. That adds another layer. If Brinker were to get rid of the Ensnaring Bridge. But looks like we're just gonna Sylvan Scrying. Maybe pick up Blast Zone. Looks like the tax was paid, so we are allowed to search here. Pick up another tower. So no Blast Zone. Maybe didn't want to give away the information and just wanted to make some more mana because Thalia does throw a wrench in things a little bit. It makes it a little more difficult to cast a lot of your spells as Tron is a pretty non-creature spell heavy deck. We're going to play the tower for turn. Still have 7 mana available. And we're just going to play Wormcoil with the colorless floating. 1 card left in hand for Joseph. And it's a Chromatic Sphere. All right. We're just going to pass it back. And 0 cards in hand for Joseph means Ensnaring Bridge is going to be a very strong magic card, preventing any of Brinker's creatures from attacking. See if we can rip a Skyclave. All right. 3 mana. Brinker will lose 1 life due to the Horizon Land and add Yorion into the hand. So something like Solitude could take care of the Wormcoil. We'll just have to see what Brinker has. We're going to untap upkeep, draw for Joseph. And it's another power plant. So now having access to 15 mana will make pretty much any draw that's not a land very good for the Tron player. And we get 1 draw here, filter into green. We're going to put a Fate counter on Wormcoil, okay? So it looks like Joseph is planning to blow up this Oblivion Stone and still be able to keep his Wormcoil, which outside of Solitude, there is not much that Brinker could have to really deal with something like that. And the first step is getting rid of this Ensnaring Bridge. And the reason we didn't see a Fate counter be put on the bridge is so that when the Oblivion Stone has been cracked, the Wormcoil can still actually do something, because Joseph does still need to actually end the game. There are a few things that Brinker could draw to get him out of this. I think we saw March of the Otherworldly Light. That looks like a way to deal with this Ensnaring Bridge. Yep, here we go. And we have to pitch an Esper Sentinel to pay the extra 2 to pay for the Thalia tax, as well as the cost for the actual spell. We are going to be targeting the Oblivion Stone, so making it so Brinker still has a board and is just in the waiting room to draw an answer to this Ensnaring Bridge now. And Brinker feeling pretty confident, I guess, that there are enough reasonable draws that he could have here. As Joseph is bricking a little bit, his draws just aren't that bad from this point on in the game. We see Sanctum of Ugin. That's going to make any non-creature spell, basically any non-creature spell that he draws into another spell. So that's not a terrible draw if you're going to draw land here. Cavern of Souls looks like the draw for Brinker, so not super good in this matchup. It's going to be a white source that is pain free. I think we're just going to play Yorion, and that's going to flicker the Flicker Wisp, but not at the right time. It can flicker the Flicker Wisp now to allow Brinker to set up to be able to exile his creature and then exile his Yorion and then be able to re-flicker the Wisp and be able to hit Ensnaring Bridge on the following turn. Looks like we have a response from Joseph here before the Yorion is returned. Oh no, Breaker is signified. Okay, so Flickros has come back, and now it is making our Yorion disappear for the turn. Yorion will come back on the end step, bringing back the Flicker Wisp. Okay, so the turn after Brinker's current turn is when we can start getting in for damage. Because the Flicker Wisp is now gone, but will come back on the end step. Or no, then it will return on Joseph's end step. So I don't believe there's a window where Brinker's going to be able to get in here. But this does just give Brinker the turn every turn the option to blink his whole board if necessary to get some more ETB triggers. There's going to be Crack in our Horizon lands. Ooh, we found Field of Ruin, it looks like, and there is only one mine for Joseph. So not this turn, but next turn we will be able to take Tron off of Tron. And step Flicker Wisp will return, targeting the Yorion. And we have a second Wormcoil and just a pass back. With 2 cards in hand, notably, so there could be an attack made if Brinker has something like Solitude. So Brinker deciding if he wants to Field of Ruin now. So he does have a 5th mana, so if he does have a Solitude, that could be a play here. And with the infinite flicker thing going, we will be eventually able to get rid of both of the Wormcoils without having to get the die trigger to go onto the stack. So Flicker Wisp will retarget the Yorion. Brinker just holding up 5 mana, looks like. And in the draw step still, we will pay 2 for the Leona Arbiter tax and also crack Field of Ruin targeting the mine, it looks like. And we're going to float 2 colorless. Not going to do a whole lot in the draw step, I would imagine. And this does actually get Joseph onto green mana, which he didn't have access to previously. So this might not be the best play, but it does reduce Joseph's land count by a lot. But he really only needs 1 draw step to find Karn or something, and he is able to cast a Karn through the Thalia. I mean, yeah, Tron's not the favorite matchup for people to see, but it definitely exists, and it did top it this past weekend in Minneapolis, or not Minneapolis, Michigan. Like Warping Whale was the draw, or no, Warping Whale is the find off of Ancient Strings. Excuse me. Warping Whale capable of taking out Flicker Wisp. I believe that's his power of toughness. We'll see. Is it pulled up now? Yeah, okay. We could exile Flicker Wisp. Brinker's going to take a look at it and make sure. So that Warping Whale will cost 3 mana, but okay. So Joseph does see that he needs to pay 3 for this, as Tron is not active anymore, as well as the Thalia is still in play. And we're going to Warping Whale the Flicker Wisp. But Brinker does have the Giver of Ruin still, and that gives pro colorless, which Devoid cards usually get around, but not in this case. All right, so Yorion continues to flicker the Flicker Wisp and give Brinker some incidental value. Two cards in hand for Joseph. Creatures can't really attack this turn either, still because of the Snaring Bridge. We're at a bit of a standstill. We're going to crack Horizon Canopy. Ricker's going to take a look at Ugin Sanctum. It's going to help Joe find any creature if he casts a non-creature spell with, or actually any colorless spell with CMC 7 or greater. But it looks like Sword of Fire and Ice for Brinker here. That might do something if we get the Ensnaring Bridge off the board, but for now, that is just going to be another artifact that sits on the battlefield. Oh, looks like Karn was the pickup, and we can pay 8 mana here, even through the Thalia attacks. And it looks like we have another land to play as well. Oh, looks like we picked up a mine, so we do just have to tap 4 mana here, as Tron is still active, or 4 lands here to make 8 mana, and that's going to trigger the Nexus, and is going to find Joseph and Ulamog, which should get him pretty far. Right, 3, 6, 10. Yeah, we can cast Ulamog here too. I'm curious to see what Joseph's going to pick. Brinker pointing out that Joseph did have to pay 2 for the Leonid Arbiter, but he was not allowed to do that since you do have to pay preemptively, but Brinker did not remind him, so he did search anyways, and I think the fix that the players did was pretty good. It's just Joseph pays the 2 now, and since he has enough mana to, he will, as he's already searched, and we probably don't want to rewind that. But our players working it out. Both seem satisfied. I don't see the need to intervene here at this level of an event. And we're just going to play Gigantha off of the forest. Yorion will come back, target Flicker Wisp. So next turn, we might see Karn go up, target Brinker, play Ulamog, and get rid of a few of Brinker's turn permanents. And then the following turn, Karn can take down on the Ensnaring Bridge, and then that'll allow Joseph to attack in with all of his big colorless creatures, as well as getting 20 cards out of Brinker's deck. Uh, even though he has an 80 card pile, it will still end the game rather quickly. So it looks like Field of Ruin has been activated. Cost has been paid by both players. And another forest has been fetched up for Joseph. A mine has been put into the graveyard, and Brinker has found another plains. All right, sorry about that, guys. I had to tend to another judge call, but we are back here now. Take a look at what's happened. Looks like Karn has more than 3 loyalties, so I think a card was taken out of Brinker's hand. It looks like the Aether Vial. And we're still setting up Karn for the next turn, which will be able to take out the bridge and be able to attack again. Brinker will just pass back. Leonid Arbiter will return. Joseph will draw for turn. Oh, we still don't have Ulamog in play. Okay, it's because Tron was taken away by the Field of Ruin the turn prior. So we're still trying to find a way to get to 10 natural mana. It looks like we're just 1 off. But we haven't found it yet. We're just going to get rid of the bridge and start attacking with some 6/6 lifelinkers and a 5/5 elk. Brinker can kill some things, but he's going to lose a lot. A lot of his board, that is. And Brinker acknowledges that. he will lose too much and just picks everything up and moves on to game 2. Tron will take game 1 here over Death and Taxes. So some things we might see Brinker put in his from sideboard here. Probably would have to imagine Kataki War's wages somewhere in his 95. His Hammer Time has been making a little bit of a resurgence throughout the paper meta, at least. I know on Moto it too has been taken over um, a few challenges here, and I know a lot of Type 8 spots in most of the modern challenges. So I think Kataki's War's wage is something there's probably hiding out there. That's gonna be pretty good way to stop things like Oblivion Stone, as it basically just forces um, the activation of like a whole Tron land because it has to be paid in the upkeep. The mana is just going to be floated, and then it's just going to go away. So it can stop Joseph from playing a lot of things if he wants to keep his artifacts in play, especially on the draw. Brinker could play that on turn 2, which would stop an expedition map. And Joseph's probably just looking at. There's probably not too many cards in his sideboard that he actually wants to bring in, since he has on a Karn the Great Creator build, and we're probably just looking at something like Dismember, that's going to take care of like Thalia or Leonin Arbiter, just really any of Brinker's creatures. Most of them are good against Tron, so uh, Joseph's just trying to do his normal game plan plus drawing ways to interact with Brinker's board, and Brinker's looking for um, the Mother of Runes effect, and just like hate pieces, um, just stacks pieces really against Tron. But Giver's going to be really good here since what little removal Joseph has, um, he needs even more removal to actually get through the Giver of Runes one way or another. It's going to force a removal spell on the Giver, or it's just going to force 2 removal spells on the same creature. All right, a Mull to 6 here, pretty common thing to see from Tron decks, and a Mull for Brinker as well. A common thing with 80 card decks. Tron and Death and Taxes, not too distant, but a little bit here. And I think Gigantha was redeclared, so no Walking Ballista looks like. Looks like Mine Tower, Blast Zone, Ulamog, and a couple artifacts. Alright, a couple eggs looks like. So I think we keep this hand on the Tron side of things. We do see Esper Sentinel for Brinker, so that's going to be a good source of card draw. And it's going to be Tower Star. It will be a combination of Giver and Aether Vial for Brinker here, so pretty good setup on turn 2. As we see mine be played for Joseph, we just have to find one more Tron land and then we're active. And we're just going to play a sphere and pay the 1 for Esper Sentinel. Looks like Warping Whale is in hand. Or no, that is the +3 -3 removal spell for both of the Gatewatch. Spatial Contortion, there we go. Looks like Brinker has Ghost Quarter. We're gonna float 2 colorless in response. Oh, double Ghost Quarter. So 2 Ghost Quarters have been activated on both of his lands. And we do get to fetch since Leonin Arbiter is not in play. And we're gonna get to take out the Giver here. Maybe not. I think we would have done it before. We can still use the 2 colorless floating, I suppose. And now we actually get to pay for the Esper Sentinel tax. So pretty heads up play there by Joseph. Making sure Breaker draws as little cards as possible. And so Spatial Contortion, we'll get the Esper Sentinel out of there. But leaving Brinker with Giver. So maybe just no more removal spells left in hand for Joseph. He doesn't plan on killing anything else with single target removal. Maybe go for more area of effect things like Ugin or Oblivion Stone. And looks like a 3rd Ghost Quarter for Brinker, and we have that for the inevitable Tron land that Joseph will draw. Or we're just going to get rid of the Blast Zone now. And Joseph probably doesn't have any more lands, so any more basics to get, so we will probably just Wasteland this. Oh, and Joe picks up his deck, so let's see. So we have a broken sleeve here. But luckily the companion does serve as a free sleeve if you do break one, as it's most likely never going to be shuffled into your deck unless you forget to declare it or something like that were to happen. You could, I guess, your companion could die and you could endurance it back into your library. That's some way that the sleeve could get back in there, but this should be a good fix. Of course, you can get all your sleeves and accessories right here at Chupacabra Games if you're in the Naperville area. Oh, Dingle's redeeming the timeout. I don't think it'll show me who you timed out, but he got someone. Heartbreaker fighting a 2nd mana source here. And another Giver. Rakastar, find another tower. Or 1/3 of the way to Tron. And here's Karn the Great Creator. That's going to get Liquid Metal Coating, which is going to start Stone Running Brinker. And make it so Vile doesn't work either, notably. It's got the one-sided null rot effect. And Field of Ruin is the draw. We're going to hit Karn down to 2. Yeah, the Stepmom might not be good enough for Brinker here. as it is his only source of damage and can't really take out the Karn completely. But if Joseph doesn't have any blockers, it might be good enough. We're going to get rid of one of Brinker's planes. Funny how things have turned into, now the Tron deck is Stone Raining the deck that was just Stone Raining it, so interesting turn of events here. Karn, good card. We're going to Field of Ruin another tower. Looks like Wilt was the draw, so we do have some ways to deal with artifacts from the Tron side of things. And we're going to Stone Rain another one of Brinker's lands. Karn will go up to 3, and back down to 2 after an attack, I would imagine. Looks like end of turn cycle Wilt. Brinker keeps finding lands, which I don't know. This is a pretty inevitable thing. We're gonna run out of lands eventually on Joseph's side of things. But for the time being, I mean, Stone Rain to turn is just gonna make Brinker have to draw lands basically, and if he draws threats, then he's just gonna get Stone Rained even further. Urza's Mind was the pickup for the turn off the sphere. And here's an Archon of Emeria. So they'll lock down each player to only have one spell a turn, and as well as non-basic lands entering the battlefield tapped. And it's a 2/3 flyer. So that's a little bit better of a clock against Karn. That'll actually deal 1 damage a turn. But that might be a little too slow. We're just going to get too much advantage off the Karn, but let's see how this plays out. Looks like Luxior, Giada's Gift, is going to be played. Don't think I've seen this one actually be cast yet in Modern. I know a few people were trying it right away with Urza Sagas, but it's going to get a 1/1 counter for each counter on it. Each equipped permanent isn't a Planeswalker and is a creature in addition to their other types. And it can still activate, notably. So now Karn can come across for 4. Oh, Karn's going to come across for 3 because it doesn't specify +1/+1 counters. It is just any type of counter. So the loyalty counters actually add towards the power and toughness on the Karn. Pretty cool interaction, especially from Tron. It's a cool little one of to get some extra damage in against like non-bolt matchups or in Holy Heat matchups. And it does leave Karn susceptible to Solitude, I suppose, but it does help end the game, as Brinker is deploying quite a few threats now on not too many lands. It's like Ugin is in hand, so if we find the Tron mana, we might be able to actually pull ourselves out of this. And here's Sylvan Scrying. That's going to find a tower. Tapping the Sanctum. We're going to be 1 off of Ugin. Okay. So we're going to have 7 mana. But it works too because it's basically 2 mana off as Thalia is in play again. And so the Archon will make the tower come in tapped. And Joseph has already cast his one spell for turn in the Sylvan Scrying. Stoneforge will be activated. Culture Complete will be put into play. And Breaker will come across for a total of 9, it looks like. Joseph's going to get a good block in on the Thalia and take 7 down to 3 here. So, Brinker at 14, probably not going to die to this Karn. But Ugin's going to come down now. Clear Brinker's board. And that's going to do it for Brinker. Joseph taking this match in 2. Mono Green Tron defeats Death and Taxes. I think it's a pretty good matchup for D&T normally. But Joe making it look pretty easy. Just clearing the board, controlling the board, and stone writing the Death and Taxes player back. All right, we're going to take a short little break here while our players get ready for round number 3. All right, we're back here for round number 3. Looks like we've got Will versus Bobby. Will should be on Amulet Titan. I haven't gotten a chance to look and see what he's on, but we know Bobby is on Tameshi Bloom combo. It looks like our players are just shuffling up here for round number 3 here at Chupacabra Games Monday Modern. It looks like Caleb being on the play. Gonna fetch up Breeding Pool here on Will's end step. After a Misty Rainforest comes down. Misty Rainforest might mean Will is on Murktide. As I believe the Amulet decks have been trimming the fetch land recently, just for another basic, in anticipation for something like Magus or Blood.
So I had OG Stoneforges, and then I got the Wizard ones. I traded the OGs for cards that are now. So I'm fine. Right, 6. I'm going first. 9. 19. Boom! He's for seasonal.
That is in fact Bobby, not Caleb. Gonna get the prediction started for you guys. All right, it should be live now. All right, prediction is live. Feel free to start now. Bet your channel points on who you think will win. Either Bobby on Tameshi combo or Will on Blue Red Murktide. We see Ledger Shredder come down here on turn 3. And looks like just a pass back. Results are pretty close. We've got close to 3K on Bobby and 2K on Will. Just over 3K. 3 mana for Wargate. All right, we're back from a judge call here. Let's see what we've missed. All right, looks like Legislator is getting a counter from Expressive Iteration, and Ragavan is being. Ragavan was casted normally last turn, and we're attacking it now, looks like. Okay, so Ragavan was indeed dashed. Maybe Iteration was actually hit. No, it would have been in Bobby's graveyard. And so Bobby at 14 Will's main prerogative here is to just have counterspells for Bobby's Tameshi, as Lotus Bloom has already been gotten out of here. Looks like Goblin Engineer for Bobby here is going to put Lotus Bloom into the graveyard from his library. Like Expressive Iteration number 2 for Will. So DRC will be exiled off of the iteration and played now, triggering Connive off of the Shredder. Putting Ragavan into the bin and growing the bird. Making Will's clock a little bit faster here, putting Bobby down to 8. And Delirium should be active. We have creature, sorcery, instant land. Yep. So it'll be 6 next turn. And a bolt is lethal. Two mana being tapped here by Bobby. It's going to be Prismatic Ending on the Shredder. With 3 mana up to. And Will's just going to let that happen. DRC in play should be good enough of a clock. Making sure to not tap out of counterspell here, just in case Bobby has something like a Wargate or maybe a Tameshi. Looks like Bobby will be channeling the giant sky turtle here, getting back Wargate. All right, we are back from yet another judge call. Sorry about that. Oh shoot, we did miss the outcome of that match. But thankfully our table judge has added the score in and looks like Will won the first game. Yeah, we have plenty of perfect fits. KMC top loader ones. Yeah, we should have as many as you need, unless you need multiple thousands. All right, so Murktide seems like pretty good matchup. Um, Pretty favored for Murktide here. Oh, the Dragon Shield ones? Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to wait, we can order you. We can probably order you a case. The next time we order sleeves. But that might be about a month or so. Yeah, it's kind of hard to say when we're gonna run out of sleeves. But I can check our distributor next time you're in. We can take a look at that. Yeah. Yeah. All right, sounds good, man. It looks like quite a few cards are coming in for Will here. As you take your time sideboarding, it's gotta be careful in this matchup. You gotta have enough answers to Tameshi, which isn't the big issue. You kind of just need to have Bolter and Holy Heat after the fact. Uh, which, as I'm saying that, I think you need to be more proactive and actually just full on counter the Tameshi. That's probably Will's best and ideal answer to that.
You have other hand. That is their only song. My cards are so dirty. You get only the outside. You
All right. So we have some gameplay, some game actions get taken on over here. We've got Relic of Progenitus on turn 1 with a couple mana held up on turn 2. Passing back to Will. Playing a second land for turn. Counterspell is available. Of course, Relic is going to make this a little more challenging for Will to actually win the game. Take a few more turns than usual. Alright, consider Will put Steam Vents into the bin. Relic will be activated, and Lotus Bloom will be put on suspend. Suspended Lotus Bloom on turn 3, so we're not going to be getting that for a few more turns. Alright, so we see a second Lotus Bloom suspended here that will be available even a turn later, but Bobby being able to play a later sort of a game here since Will's going to be stuck on a graveyard, so DRCs are not going to be as threatening, as well as Murktide isn't going to be as threatening, and it's not going to come down until turn 7 with the way this is going. I think just Steven today, playing 4-color. I believe he is 1-1 going into this round, so no feature match for that, but no read today. Yeah, so just only one of the 4-color. Alright, it is time to cast Lotus Bloom. It looks like it's going to resolve too. I wonder if we'll see a Tameshi come down here? Maybe something like a Teferi will be the spell to resolve before we get going here. And so here's an Eldamri's call. We might be seeing Tameshi come down, as now this will either find a Tameshi or a Cultivator Colossus. Will's just gonna Spell Pierce this though while Bobby's tapped out. In the middle of our Flusterstorm with Consider. 1 red mana for a Lightning Bolt. Beat to Bobby's face here, down to 14. And here is a Murktide. It's going to be 7 power. And we'll see if Bobby has an answer to that. I don't believe Bobby plays Solitudes. I think we're going to find out right now, as there's an Aldamar's Call being cast. Will has 3 mana available as well. Look, so we could have something like Spell Pierce as well as Archmage's Charm, or something like a counterspell. All right, we're back there for them. Temporary setback here. Well, looks like Tameshi combo is doing its thing. We have a Teferi in play and Cultivator with Tameshi. Bobby's at 13. Trying to see if Bobby can kill here this turn and not die to the Murktide. I'm just going to keep bouncing lands and keep playing Cultivators. I'm going to get a few Cultivators in play. But how we win from there, I don't exactly remember. We're just going to have to see. Atomara, the Murktide back to hand. Bobby has plenty of cards in hand. Gonna try to find a way to win this turn. This is Cultivator number 2. Draw 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This might just draw the whole deck here. Not sure how many lines he already has in hand, but I would imagine it's quite a few. I'd say something like Cavern Souls plus Thassa's Oracle. That might be a way to win here. But I don't think, outside of Dressstone, I don't think Will can win from here. He still doesn't have a clock either. Dressstone would basically get rid of this board state, though. All right, and there's the finale of Devastation. We're going to make our boys really large and hasty. And that's how we're going to win. All right, we have just over 13 minutes here. We're going to get ready for game number 2. See some small sideboarding adjustments from Will here. Can't be a matchup he's too familiar with, but probably has some reps, so he's got an idea of what to bring in now. And he gets to be on the play, so should be smooth sailing for the counterspell deck. Here is subtlety. Pitching Murktide. Paying the 3 mana for defense grid as well. It's going to put Tameshi either on the top or the bottom on Bobby's deck.
So you'll end up at 25, losing 3 games.
Ragavan will come in for 2, picking up a Wargate. Unfortunately, yeah, we have been muted this whole time. But yeah, I mean, there's not too much to say about this matchup. I mean, Bobby's going to be doing his thing under either Teferi or now he's got Defense Grid, so probably 6 to 10 versions of Teferi out.
Yes, the artifact version.
Basically. And now with 2 cultivators, bunch of mana floating, we should just be getting Finale of Devastation at some point.
2 cultivators is basically an instant win with this deck.
I mean, they're wins.
You don't care about that. You just pull your light deck out.
You make a bunch of mana and give him +X/+X.
I'm looking for the positives here.
Yeah, I mean, if Bobby accidentally bounces a land, maybe they
is that
die,
fair?
Fairy bounce cultivator.
and then
Recap.
recultivate the hidden mode on.
Yeah, he was telling me about
Teferi.
that line during our match, and I was just like, oh, okay. Got it.
The deck is it's interesting.
It's kind of neat.
He has killed himself by decking himself before.
Well, Cultivator's a May, right? You don't have to.
I know, but he
He just ran out of gas.
He ended up with 1 card, like 0 cards in the library, and then accidentally minus the fairy. I think that was on Choop's game day.
Oh shit! Yeah, just randomly decking out with a Tameshi deck. But he should have it here.
Now everyone knows about that. Everyone who's watching the stream knows about that. The thing he didn't want people to know about.
But now people know that you can lose even though you have basically infinite mana.
I mean, yeah,
Could the Tameshi deck just play like Thassa's Oracle?
it probably could.
Like you just play
You could-
one Oracle?
I see no reason why you couldn't. I just
Because like,
you can deck yourself really easily with this.
I guess you still lose to Dress Down.
Yeah,
But like if you have Teferi out, then
dress down instead. Oh, you can't even dress down instead with the fairy.
no, it's Teferi. You could with
Defense grid.
Defense Grid, yeah.
Actually, I didn't pull it. I got them. Which I suppose is only
We'll be in a really good sport here and letting Bobby play with his food a little bit.
I think we are in turns now too, so he's made it this far.
Yeah, I think they're on turn 0 still.
Yeah. Is it Ren?
Looks like it.
Back one
Is he
Misty
able
Rainforest.
to just infinitely bounce and ping? Run?
No, I don't think
That feels like a silly way to win.
I don't think he has enough lands for that.
I just assume he has infinite mana.
Oh, does Tameshi let you pick up any permanent?
think so.
No. Tameshi's pick up a land, return an artifact, but with
okay.
CMC X or less from the
Oh,
top
right,
from the
right,
very
right.
to the battlefield.
Okay.
I've read Tameshi Grand Hoodle once, and that was earlier tonight.
I've read it a couple times and I still forget what it says. It's
It's weird.
I haven't paired into the matchup,
it's
so
a
I
weird
don't know.
card.
Yeah,
it hasn't mattered.
Today was the first time I played against the matchup at all.
Yeah.
It activates only at sorcery speed, draws a card once, and returns an artifact with converted mana cost X or less. If you could draw a card every time you activate
It
it,
would be so much easier.
I mean, you could also run the risk of actually killing yourself faster too.
It's true. I doubt it's a May. Or I doubt it would be a May at that point. This deck totally loses to Fog, dude. You gotta have Thassa's Oracle. I think that's the hot new tech. It looks like Fluffy overheard us and we get to pull up Tameshi here.
Or we saw someone writing in chat.
Yeah. I feel like the activate only as a sorcery doesn't really matter too much.
No, can you imagine doing this at instant speed?
In response to like a removal spell or something. But like you're gonna do it anyway. Because you get priority again.
True. Bobby just has a lot of experience with this matchup.
Oh yeah, it's gotta be the most common matchup nowadays.
He tested against me and I play Murktide. So
Yeah. That's also true. Alright. Bobby shows Will the finale of finale of Devastation and Will scoops him up. I believe this was our last match, so we should be getting the last round up here momentarily, and we'll see you guys back there for that.
you get
All right, we are back here for round number 4. Our final round here today at Chupacabra Games. Monday Modern. We've got Eric on Grixis Death Shadow with Gigantic Opinion and returning player Bobby still on Tameshi. We see Eric lead on Mountain Ragavan, so good aggressive start here. It does look like he's on the draw, so hopefully we've got something like Thoughtseize. But Mountain start does mean that Drown on the Lock is going to be a little bit harder to cast. But good news is, Drown hitting Tameshi only has to be 3 cards in the graveyard. That's not too bad. This is going to be turn 2 Ren for Bobby to take out this Ragavan. There's a Watery Grave. I see something like Ledger Shredder here. No, Dashed Ragavan. All right, that worked out. We're going to take out this Ren. Hopefully making it so Bobby can't make a 3rd land drop. And the prediction for the last round is live. Go ahead and bet your channel points now. Looking pretty. Things are looking pretty even in the chat. We've got for the gambling, we've got 3,500 to 3.4 thousand now. So very close game. It looks like. And so Watery Grave here for Eric, and Drone Unlock is live now. We're going to play DRC into Mishra's Bauble, which is going to get us the Surveil trigger. And let Eric draw on Bobby's upkeep. So now if Bobby can beat 1 Drown in the Lock here, he can probably go for the combo. But I think he's just going to try to jam a Teferi here. And this is going to be a Wargate for 0. I think for Eric, you just have to let this part of the combo resolve. Looks like he's going to do just that. Here is an iteration, getting to mill Swamp off of the DRC. See another iteration, DRC and Terminate. Terminate not a bad card, but I don't think it does too much in the face of just Tameshi. We're going to be exiling the DRC. And I think picking up another iteration. And we do have another land, okay. So we can still hold up our drone in the lock. Yeah, right. I know he dropped the deck a little bit, but he is back on Death Shadow, sporting the Jiggy G, Gigantic Companion. So Eric just having one blue mana up here, and Bobby's going to take this time to most likely resolve this Teferi, as he can pay for Spell Pierce, even if that's something Eric has. Teferi's going to bounce the DRC. And here's Inquisition of Kozilek. And we don't have a Tameshi yet, so it's just 3 lines Cultivator Colossus. Come across for 2 with the Teferi. Gonna take that out with a Ragavan. And it looks like we're gonna Expressive Iteration. If we find another land, we'll be able to terminate the Cultivator Colossus, if that's what Bobby's looking to do here. So we see Bobby pick up another Teferi here. Could be pretty useful in resolving the Tameshi if that is ever found. So Eric putting on the pressure here. Starting to get this game towards a close. As every turn Bobby gets to draw closer to a Tameshi. But now we're just suspending a Lotus Bloom, and I think Eric's clock is going to be a little bit faster than until that Lotus Bloom even comes down. Yeah, getting some kind of threat here would be good, even if it is just a Colossus. It'd still be pretty powerful. This looks like Portable Hole. It's going to take the DRC. Stop the clock a little bit. Eric steals a Teferi off of the Ragvan. I can imagine we're going to cast that this turn. Yeah, I'm always I always get got by the flip of the Teferi off of the Ragvan. That is pretty powerful there, and will help Eric seal the deal here, especially with the Death Shadow in play, even if it is just a 3/3. We also could have bounced the Portable Hole, but I guess by deploying a Death Shadow, you don't really want to do that. Here's Teferi, and here's a Drown unlock, but Spell Pierce. Gonna take out the Drown. Oh, but Teferi is in play. Looks like our players forgot that too. Pretty atypical from a Grixis Shadow player to have a Teferi in play, but it's gonna get the job done here this time.
This is where you can fade an error. You should have blocked that other because I'm going to icon go your leg it never. No, 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 no. You should be blocking like you did. Because I have a chance. On the block. No, so it would go away anyway. Oh, we did it. But it makes a lot of money.
So let's back up, put Bobby down to 7. Gonna take up Teferi. Eric chooses not to cast Wargate. Wise decision. And Bobby will scoop him up. Eric will take game 1. Yep, yeah, this is the 4th and final round. It turns out Expressive Iteration, finding a way to increase the clock, and also counter spells, and a pretty good flip off of the Ragavan, getting that Teferi, making it a lot easier for Eric to take down game 1. And now Eric gets to board in some sideboard cards, probably some more dress downs if he's got them, and maybe something like Mystical Dispute to stop Teferis. We'll be back with more modern action momentarily as our players sideboard here. Alright, looks like we're back here for game number 2. Players are all shuffled up and ready to get going here. Bobby's going to lead on what looks like a fetch land. Flooded Strand, we're going to pass. And Eric with a turn 1 Ragavan yet again. So Ragavan off of Mountain again, so we know there's going to be less blue sources if this Ragavan gets dealt with, as we saw last game. Bobby just had a Ren in 6, which was able to kill the Ragavan since it wasn't dashed, and it stayed in play for a turn, for a passing of the turn. All right, we do see it again. Turn 2, Ren in 6 to take care of Ragavan. I wonder if we'll see a dash Ragavan yet again. There's Polluted Delta. That's going to get a Ledger Shredder. I wonder if we have a bubble to trigger Connive here. Looks like no. Bobby's just going to untap. And so turn 3 to Fairy for Bobby here while Eric is tapped out. So Lotus Bloom gonna enter off of a War Gate. Ragavan coming in for 2, hitting Burnington Forge Tender. Could be a spicy sideboard hit for Eric here. as the Forge Tender is pretty good at blocking Ragavans. And Eric representing 2 mana is going to be good against any of Bobby's plays. Eric actually, Drown in the Lock does care about the number of cards in the graveyard for the controlling player of the permanent or the spell. There are only 2 cards in Bobby's graveyard. Looks like there might be a third after this fetch, but Bobby will be able to get it out of the graveyard with a Wrenn and 6. And here's Teferi number 2. See if Eric has a response to this one. Right here is Ledger Shredder. There's a way to get the ball rolling here. All right, here is Wargate for 0. We're gonna find another Lotus Bloom. Oh, no, we find Tameshi here. We crack the Lotus Bloom. I see what's going on. This is through to Fairy too. This should be good enough to get the game. Right. Bobby has the mana trackers coming out. Should be enough to seal the deal. As long as we see some cultivators. All right, have a good night, legitimate business person. All right, looks like Bobby's going to take game 2, and we're going to head over to game 3 with Death Shadow on the play. All right, our players are shuffling up here for game number 3 of the final round. We have Death Shadow being on the play for the first time this match. Hopefully that'll mean some more counter spells and Dash Ragavans from Eric's side of things. Like Bob is going to take a mulligan out of 6 here. It's got to be a good feeling from the Thoughtseize side of things. Looks like Bobby's on a mull to 5 here. Eric's going to start things off with a bauble. And here is Shock Thoughtseize. We're going to see Tracker, Forge Tender, and Eldamer's Call. I think if Eric doesn't have any removal spells, he does not take. He takes tracker, but he's gonna take the forge tender, as it is pretty annoying to deal with once it's actually resolved, and makes a little bit harder for Eric to actually get damage across. Alright, so it looks like we've seen Ledger Shredder now, and it's gonna get Bauble to trigger Connive. Yeah, Bauble's been through many metas. We've seen lots of artifact decks, but now it's not even an artifact deck. It's just a value piece with DRC and now Shredder. Shredder just a 1/3 right now. Here's Bauble. On a Soul Guide Lantern, so that is going to be a way to stop the combo from happening here. And that will also trigger Connive for the Shredder. So we're going to be able to come across for a little bit more damage now. And still have some protection available on counter spells and Soul Guide Lantern. We're going to cast an Eldamri's Call on end step.
bad boy.
Like Bobby flashing us a Magus in the moon. That might be a way that he can prevent Eric from casting more spells, but not quite really answer this this Ledger Shredder. Eric's going to take a look at the top of his library and draw an upkeep. So Bobby has the combo in hand, but he's missing the Lotus Bloom. And I believe he is missing the lands necessary to do this, so he is going to be a mana short. And he's got a few draw steps out of this, though. I mean, Eric is only putting on 2 damage a turn. 3 damage maximum at this point, unless we dash a Ragavan. But since Eric does have the Soul Guide Lantern that's going to have an extra layer of insulation to this combo and is going to buy Eric a decent amount of time. I think we're just playing tracker here. See if we have a fetch land. Or Tameshi here, sorry. And we're just going to play Tameshi pass back. And it's going to get Mystical Disputed. Come across for 2 again, put bottom into 9. Pleasure Shredder number 2. If Eric had Delirium, I'm almost wanting to save the Mystical Dispute and just use the Unholy Heat on his turn to trigger Connive on the Ledger Shredders. And then also still have Mystical Dispute, but he might not have Delirium, so that could be a concern. It could just be... No, he definitely has Delirium. Might have to ask Eric about that after the match. Looks like Bobby's gonna Eldamary's call for Magus in the moon. Don't think that's gonna do a whole lot now. All right, and that's gonna do it. Eric's gonna be our 4-0 champion today, with Grix's Death Shadow. He's gonna be taking down Tameshi Bloom in the last round here. And that'll do it for tonight's stream. We just had 4 rounds tonight on Modern, but we should be back tomorrow with some Pioneer. We may or may not have some commentary. We'll be taking a look, seeing how that goes. We'll get you guys your channel points, and I think we're gonna raid someone here momentarily.